It's Shani on Shani Speaks Now.
Hey there, Faith Fam. It's your girl Shani here, and welcome to this edition of My Fill in the Blank Story, a live interview series where I aim to amplify the voices of women as they share their reproductive health stories. This month, I had the honor of speaking to amazing breast cancer survivor Suhail Pantojas, as she shared what it was like getting a breast cancer diagnosis on her first mammogram. She lets us know what it was like going through her chemotherapy and a double mastectomy, and where she is now in her breast cancer survival journey. So be sure to stick around all the way through, because her story is a testimony you don't want to miss. But welcome everyone that is coming in and that will continue to come in to a series that I call My Fill in the Blank Stories. And this particular story today is my first mammogram and breast cancer story with my special guest, Suhail Pantojas. Am I saying that right? Pantojas? I want to give it a little extra ring to it. My Spanish is getting there. It ain't all the way there, but it's getting there. Now, the good thing is that me and Suhail, we go back, like way back. We both went to the University of Central Florida, go Knights, where we were students there. We have a mutual friend, our friend 𝙁𝙤𝙙𝙬𝙙𝙬, who I actually featured in March. She did my hysterectomy story. Yeah. And we've just had the privilege of knowing each other throughout the years. And that's the beauty of just having a sphere and a circle of very strong, very amazing, very powerful, wonderful women who are willing to also introduce, themselves to each other. 𝙁𝙁𝙁𝙬 and Suhail actually grew up together. And then she introduced me to her when we were at UCF. So that's the beauty of women being willing to actually share their friends with other women. So that's an important thing that I hope people will continue to do. And because of that, we're able to have this conversation today. Now, for those of you who don't know me, because I know there's a lot of people in here that are on here to support Suhail, which I love. And also those who may see this on YouTube or see this on Instagram or see it on her page who may not know me. My name is Shani Jones. I am residing in Orlando, Florida. I am a speaker. I know, go Orlando. I'm a speaker, a content creator, a host. I love interviewing people. That's one of my favorite things to do. Hence why I love having conversations like these. And I'm also a realtor in Orlando, Florida. So that's me in a nutshell. But how this all started is because of my personal story and challenges with reproductive health. In 2021 and 2022, I went on a journey that I had no idea was going to happen. Me and my husband were trying to start a family, and I was struggling with that and not really knowing why. And finally realized that I had fibroids, which was discovered in September of 2021. I had surgery in December of 2021, had 3 fibroids removed, one that was super huge, and then we got pregnant in March of 2022, having no idea, but unfortunately lost that baby in April of 2022. And of course, that's just a whole different thing in general. And I felt after that I really was supposed to share about my journey. And I shared about my fibroid surgery. I shared about my miscarriage. I had another surgery in December of 2022 that I discussed as well. And truth be told, I felt so much healing in sharing my story. I felt healing in realizing that there were other people that were like me out there. I wasn't the only one. A lot of times when you go through these sorts of things, which I'm sure Suhail can attest to, you feel like, why is this happening to me? Am I the only person? And it helps to just have community, and it's healing to share your story. And that's a part of why I started this series, to allow women to not only talk about some of the things that no one wants to talk about because certain topics are so taboo, but also to give a platform for women to be able to encourage other women with their stories. And I'm really just grateful that I've had amazing women who have wanted to share their stories and who have been willing to answer questions and just go in depth and really get real and vulnerable and transparent. And that's what I say these conversations are all about. So without further ado, I want to give Suhail an opportunity to just share a little bit about herself and tell us who she is before we get into her story, which is a very, very powerful one.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity as well, Shani.
Of course.
This has always been your thing. So when you, when you brought it out there, I was like, it took me a little bit. Like, I was like, I probably can do this. And then like right there, you texted me.
No,
I was
literally.
Like, oh.
I was like, and you were one of the first people, like when I was doing it, I was like, okay, I'm going to reach out to Suhail because I want to see if she'd be willing. And then the fact that you thought about it, so it was perfect. I'm so glad we're going to do this.
Because for those that don't know me, I'm very shy. I'm not like out there, once I get to know you, I flow better and but at first I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I don't want to talk to her. Like, I don't, it's very, so it took me like a little bit, but at the same time, I was like, just the fact that I even was thinking about it, like I was like, okay, so then I should do this. But my name is Suhail, for those that don't know me. I currently live in Orlando, but I'm from the Bean Town. Sorry. Boston is home and always will be. But yeah, I've been here for, gosh, 20 plus years. Right. And yeah, like Shani said, we met through our great mutual friend, my sister. Padre and I have been friends since the 5th grade. So that's way back. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we discovered today, which we did not know, actually Suhail discovered it and let me know, is that June 4th actually has a really, really important significance, the day that we're on here. And it's actually not just June 4th, but the first Sunday in June. And I'll actually let Suhail share a little bit more.
Right. So when we picked this day, you know, Shani, like she said, she had other ladies that were saying their story too. And so my turn was June 4th. And I'm like, yeah, that should be fine. Everything's good. And this morning I woke up and I'm on Instagram just scrolling. And, you know, my fellow breast cancer survivors are posting and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God. So today is National Cancer Survivor Day. Yeah. And so I was like, wow, look at that. So it just happened to be the same day of my life. So it kind of meant, like, I was like, this is kind of meant to be, because what it is.
It's a powerful thing to be able to share, but especially to be able to share on a day that it is about survivors. And that is definitely what you are. And without further ado, we'll get into your story. Now, the one thing is, you know, most of my lives have been more about reproductive health, which a lot of times has to do with, you know, fertility, infertility, the things that may or may not cause it. But cancer is something that I wanted to make sure I also added, because most times people think of, you know, when it comes to reproductive health, ovarian cancer, cervical cancer, because those all are within that reproductive scope.
Right.
But breast cancer is probably one of the cancers that affect women the most. I don't know anyone who doesn't know somebody, whether it be a family member, a friend, a coworker, who has been impacted by breast cancer. Personally, in my immediate family, I had both my grandmother on my mom's side and an aunt on my mom's side who passed away from cancer. And I mean, cancer in general has wreaked havoc on my family. But it's something that is maybe discussed a little bit more than other things. But at the same time, we don't always get the in-depth stories. You know, October comes around, and it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and there's, you know, runs and certain things that happen and may get a spotlight for a while.
Right.
But it's not as often that you get a chance to kind of hear someone's story. Even more so, what struck me about Suhail is it was her first mammogram. Nobody's expecting that. And she's only 40 years old. She's a young woman. So that is the crazy thing of just kind of having that dichotomy of like, this is just supposed to be routine. Like, this is not supposed to happen like this.
Right.
That is really why I wanted to reach out to her. And even though, you know, maybe it doesn't affect her reproductive system directly, she's still a woman who wants to be married one of these days. I don't know if she wants to have children, but of course, having cancer affect your body, I'm sure it can have some stipulations, or also can just make it a little bit of something you really have to think about and wonder like, okay, will I be able to do this in the future if this is so it still somehow ties into all of that. And it's just something that affects women of color. And it always gets us harder than it does other populations of women. And that's a part of why I want to bring her story. So just to get into her story, I want to start with kind of your life pre-cancer. I know when we talked, you shared how, you know, you had your normal just, you know, checkups. And that was in that was in September of 2021. Right. And everything at that point was normal. Let me know, what was your lifestyle prior to your diagnosis? What was normal for you?
You know, I was just living life pretty much. You know, out there having fun. You know, going out when I could. Traveling. All the normal stuff, I guess. I guess I was trying to get out. I'm like, okay, let me get this out of my system in my because I'm about to be 40 soon. Right. But yeah, I mean, I would go to the doctor frequently whenever I needed to go. You know, I wasn't somebody. I've never been one to get sick a lot. Like, it's very rare when I get sick. So, you know, I would just do my physicals and stuff, just normal.
Regular checkups,
My regular checkups, right? So, and our first cancer story that hit us was my uncle, my dad's brother. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer maybe like 7, 8 years ago. And that was the first time that cancer struck my family.
Wow.
It was a big deal to us. You know, he passed away, unfortunately. So we were like, everybody was just like distraught, obviously. And, you know, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
But that was the first time. So from there, cancer was a little bit more close knit, just because it's like, okay,
right.
So it affected, and even though it was an uncle, but still, it was still a part of it.
Correct.
But that was the only thing. I mean, other than that, cancer was like nowhere.
Right.
Like I said, I was just having fun out there and enjoying myself.
Yeah. Now then, later on of that year, December 2021, you found a lump on your own.
So, right. So, come August of 2021, August, September-ish, around there, I have to get my pap smear. I go to my GYN, and I get that done. Great. And she does a manual exam. She's like, oh, everything looks great. But I see that you're turning 40 in a few months. So I'm just going to put in a referral so you can go get your first mammo. And I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. So a few months later, like December, I'm in the shower. Now, I was not one to check my breast. I have to admit, I would sometimes, you know, get like the little pamphlet.
Right.
I even hung it from my shower.
Same.
And sometimes I'll be like, oh, I forgot to do that. Like after the fact, after I'm out the shower.
Right.
So it wasn't something that I was like, okay, let me do this regularly.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't me. But I don't know. This day I'm taking a shower and I'm just like, and I felt it.
Wow.
And like, I'm like, that's weird. So I felt both of them and I was like, okay, one doesn't have it. It was my right. I was like, okay, you know, again, I'm not thinking anything about it. I remember telling my mom, I'm like, Mom, do you feel this or is it me? And she's like, oh, yeah, it does feel like something. So whatever. I left it at that. I didn't really not make a big deal out of it, but I was like, oh, I'll come back to it kind of thing.
Right.
So I actually went back home for Christmas for the holidays. So I did that whole thing with the family. Come back in January, I'm planning my 40th. And the mammo card comes in the mail. Like, okay, call to your mammo. So I'm like, oh. I said, you know what? Because I am a procrastinator when it comes to doctor's appointments and all that.
Right.
So I see the card and I'm like, ooh, let me get this done because, all this time I'm thinking, I'm like, it's a cyst. Yeah. It's probably a cyst because I have ovarian cyst. Exactly. So I'm like, it's a cyst. Yeah. I'm telling you, I swear to you, cancer was the last thing on my mind.
And I don't think, you said it wasn't painful, right?
No.
There wasn't any pain, it was just the lump.
It was just the lump, yeah. No pain, nothing. So I'm like, all right. Because also, I have heard that sometimes it does, if it hurts, then that's when you worry. Correct. But apparently when it hurts, it's because it's at a higher stage. So, you have to also understand, like, the difference between that. So, anyway, it didn't hurt, whatever. I called, I called to get my mammo. They put me in. I got the mammo, which was horrible. Oh, yeah.
I had my first one last year, too, and I thought they was going to clamp my whole body into that.
Yes. I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, there's got to be
a better way.
Right? I've heard of it, but I was like, you really have to experience to know the discomfort. Sheesh. Okay, so then I get it. And it's funny because the tech was like, let me tell you something. You're probably going to get a call to come and get an ultrasound. Don't worry about it. I don't want you to get scared or nervous. This happens to pretty much everybody for their first mammo because they don't have any priors to base it off of.
Correct. And this was March of 2022, right? When you finally had your appointment.
Right.
And it's true because when I got mine, they do send you a letter suggesting if you want, because my breasts are dense. So they're like, if you want to find out more, you can, but it's not, unless you see anything else. So I can understand her trying to tell you that.
Right. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. I appreciate that because I probably would have, been nervous not knowing. Well, fast forward, March 16th, I got a call to come get an ultrasound. So again, I'm like, okay, the lady told me it's probably because it's my first mammo.
Right.
So whatever. I get the ultrasound, and I have everything written down here because I'm like, I'm gonna forget. So it's like, okay, so I get the ultrasound, and the tech she was so nice. She was so sweet, you know, but there was just like a little something because she took so many shots. Like, you know how the monitor and
right.
And she was just snapping and snapping and snapping, and I'm like, what's all the pictures for? Like, I don't know, like, I had a little bit, but I'm like, maybe that's just
right,
normal.
Yeah.
So she says, okay, give me a second, I'm gonna call in the radiologist. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
She comes back with she leaves, she comes back with the radiologist. And so this part was because I went in there alone. Because I'm not, like, I'm getting an ultrasound.
Yeah.
So the tech gets in, and she does her thing too. She also took pictures and, you know, did her thing, does it on both. And I'm like, so it's funny because I'm sitting there and I'm like, right. Are you guys okay?
Y'all do realize I still ain't got no top,
right. Right. I'm like, sure. And now at this point, both of them are out because she's checking on both of them. I'm
right.
Like, okay. Anyway, so she's like, okay. Now, very, bless her heart. She was very, like, uppity, but at the same time, it was like, okay, what?
Right.
So she's like, okay, well, I think I know what it is. I'm not sure you want to know what it is, though.
What kind of...
And I'm like, no, I kind of do.
Right.
So she's like, well, I think it's cancer.
Lord.
And I mean, as you guys can probably imagine, I was like,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So then she goes off. She's telling me, I think it's cancer. Then continues to tell me, don't worry, technology is so good right now. You know, nowadays, you can just go ahead and get a mastectomy and get rid of them. And you're not going to have to worry about a mammogram. Like, she doesn't even know what stage.
Yeah, she just hit you with biggest news that you've had that you're not expecting.
Right.
And I think we talked about this when we talked, is that sometimes doctors forget, this is the first time you're telling me this. You may do this all day.
Right.
You may tell other people this. You may do this a couple times, but this is the first time I'm hearing it. So the sensitivity of it, they need to understand.
Right. And, no, exactly. And that's what everybody said. Everybody's like, oh, well, you know, she's probably just so used to, like, it's just over and over. And I'm like, I get it, but,
yeah,
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like, you're not telling me, you know, that my ankle is swollen.
Right.
Or like, you are telling me I have cancer. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, you know, she tells me all that, and I'm just like, at this point, I'm just like,
right, spaced out. You'd probably hear nothing else.
Right. And I'm like, what? So she leaves, and then the tech continues. She's like, just take it easy, you know, and let's just take one step at a time. She tried to comfort me, so I appreciated that from her.
Yeah.
I leave, and the first thing I do is call my bestie, Patria. And she already knew I was going. So, you know, she answers the phone quick, and I'm like, she's like, so how'd it go? Whatever. Because I think even her, like, just the way she answered the phone was like,
you expected to be just normal.
Right. And so I told her, I said, apparently it's cancer.
Wow.
And I remember her voice. She was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof.
And so we both just started crying, and she started crying, then I started crying, and it was just a whole thing. I'm like, I don't want to tell my mom now, like, I want to wait, but I ended up telling her anyway. So that was the gist of the announcement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get through the announcement of it, and what is the next steps? Like, at this point, I'm sure you're trying to figure out, like, how do I survive with this? Like, what does this really mean? And also, what was the type of cancer you were diagnosed with? Because I think a lot of times when people think cancer, they typically think stage 4, terminal. You know, they don't think about the fact that there are different stages. There are things that you can work through. So what were you technically diagnosed with, and kind of what was the game plan for you once you found out?
So so real quick, from there, the next step was a biopsy, because a biopsy has to confirm
Got you.
the cancer. So I went in for my biopsy, which was extremely painful, by the way.
They use a needle, right?
The needle's like this, yeah. And they like dig it in there like all the way, because they have to get the tissue. Like the tissue is what sends it. So they have, it's not just like, okay, a quick needle out. Yeah. So that was that. And so then I waited, I believe it was like a week or so for the results. The results were sent to my GYN.
Gotcha.
So she called me. May 2nd comes up. I'm at work. I get a call from her. I answer it. And she's like, the first thing she tells me, she goes, well, your lymph nodes are clear. They're good. So that's, that's good. And I'm like, oh, great.
Right.
Like,
okay.
She's like, yeah, but you do have invasive ductal carcinoma. And I'm like, huh?
What does that mean?
I'm like, what is that? Yeah. The carcinoma part, I don't know why. Maybe because I've heard of it. I don't know. But the carcinoma part was the only thing that kind of grasped. Like,
right.
I was like, this is, I just knew it wasn't good.
Right.
So then whatever, I was like, what does that mean? And you have breast cancer. And I was like, oh my goodness gracious, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, are you serious? So she was really sweet, she's like, because she's the one that gave me the referral for my surgeon and all that. So she's like, I'm going to send you to her. She's going to take care of you. And I'm outside my job, and I'm like, is this even happening to me right now? It's just like a shock. Like, I couldn't believe it. I called my mom, obviously, the first thing, told her. Then I called my older brother, and it was just like, from there, it was just, then I started telling everybody. But, so that happened. So it's invasive ductal carcinoma, but it's also called triple positive breast cancer. There's triple positive and there's triple negative.
Got you.
Negative is a little bit, it's a little bit more serious.
Got you.
It's a little bit more intense.
Got you.
So with those two, it's due to your estrogen levels.
Oh, wow.
So that's what it has to do, depending on how your cells.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what it came up with.
Is very reproductive-ish.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you probably don't think of that because, again, it's not hereditary.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't smoke.
Yeah.
So obviously, I mean, it's not lung, but still, it can still happen.
Right. Different things can trigger and factor.
Right. So, so that's how they pretty much told it. That was the case. So thankfully now, before these triple positive or triple negative cancers, women used to pass away like the survival rate was lower because they didn't have the right medicine for it, the right chemo.
Got you.
So they only had one type of chemo, and I guess it wasn't enough.
Wow.
So they would end up passing away.
Wow.
Years later, now, and this is from my oncologist.
Yeah.
I'm not making this up, guys.
No, I'm glad to share, because I never knew this.
Yes. So from I don't know how many years, but now each of them, the triple negative and the triple positive, have their own separate chemos. Like, I did one, but if it would have been negative, it would have been a different one. So, when they diagnosed me with the triple positive, then that's when the plan was to, get that specific chemo, which was 4 chemos in one. Because now
so extremely strong.
Exactly. Then. Now they noticed that the one wasn't working. The 2 started coming up a little bit later, and then they ended up saying, no, we got to go with the 4.
Yeah.
Like, just go in there straight to it, and just kill the tumor pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. That's what they gave me when they figured out the plan.
Right.
The chemo.
So your plan was, part of it was chemo, and then the other part of it was actually mastectomy. and
Right.
you did a double mastectomy in your case.
Correct.
And was that because, well, I'll let you tell us, what was why did they want to go that extreme for you? Because there was also a lumpectomy you could have done or other things.
Right. So when I first spoke with my breast cancer surgeon, she told me about the chemo, and she also she was like, oh, because it's a stage 1B, because apparently now it's like 1A, 1B,
Right.
2, B, things like that. She's like, because it's 1B, we obviously caught it early. So you'll just need, after chemo, you'll just need a lumpectomy. So I'm like, okay, yay, which means removal of the lump.
Right.
And then removal of the lump once it's been shrunk by the chemo.
Right.
So it wouldn't be an extensive
surgery. Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, great, let's do it. Like, this is another thing that kind of was a little iffy with the doctor. Love her, she's great and all. But she told me that without me having to take a genetic test. You have to get a genetic test when you're diagnosed with this. It's actually one of the first things that you should do, because that's going to say, it's going to detect, the reoccurrence, or if you any gene mutations that might cause, all that.
Yeah.
So when I get to my oncologist, she gives me the genetic testing, and when it comes back, but now I'm like, I don't know, my fourth chemo I'm already in.
Oh, wow.
And so thinking I'm going to get a lumpectomy. So this is all my plan throughout everything. So come to find out, when the genetic testing came back, my percentage was higher of reoccurrence.
Oh, wow.
So at that point, at a certain percentage,
you just need to have them removed.
You just need to have them. She told me, she's like, it's completely up to you. We can still do the lumpectomy, but just know that the percentage is a little bit higher than the norm, but it's completely up to you. We can do the lumpectomy now, and if it returns,
and who wants to even go through that? Who wants to do a surgery and go through all this pain already to then maybe have the chances of, that's
right. Right. And it was a hard decision. Obviously, that's not something that you're, even though I'm looking out for my health, obviously, but it's so hard to be like, because obviously, like you said, you don't want it to return. So I'm not thinking, okay, let me get a lumpectomy and it's not going to return.
Right.
But I don't know that. So it took me a few, she told me, she's like, just take your time. It took me a few weeks to, but at the same time, I knew that I didn't want to go through this again.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, it would just help me to move forward into not thinking about every scan I get. Every mammo, is it there? What are the results?
Or even just, is there something I'm eating? Is there something I'm drinking? Is there something I'm exposed to that I don't know if it's going to affect me?
Yeah. Right. So it's a lot of thinking.
Yeah.
To put it away. So then I was like, I eventually, said, let's do it. Let's do the mastectomy.
So I want to talk about treatment a little bit. One, how soon after your diagnosis did you start chemo, and what was that process like? Because a lot of times, you see commercials, you see survivors, they've lost their hair, they look paler, all these different things. But you don't always know, like, what is that experience like to see that happening to yourself? And to, again, you're still beautiful no matter what. And I saw her during the process of her healing, when her hair hadn't grown back yet. Yeah. She was still as beautiful and vibrant as she looks right now. But, I mean, you're a gorgeous woman. You have always been since I've known you. And it has to be hard to see just the physical aspects of yourself change, feeling yourself be weaker, not being able to do the things that you're used to doing. What was that process like for you going through those treatments?
So, like I said, I was diagnosed May 2nd, and June 2nd was my first chemo, which came up in a year. So it was a matter of, a few weeks. Listen, that chemo is no joke. Like, again, I've always known that chemo is obviously something bad. It's a poison that's going into your body. But man, that experience was just not fun at all. My hair literally started falling out like at my second chemo. Like, I was already going like this, and my hair was.
Oh my gosh!
And I was like, what? Like, I don't know. I knew it was gonna fall out, but I didn't know how to.
How do you prepare yourself for that?
Right. I didn't know how it was gonna happen.
Yeah.
So, I'm brushing my hair one day, and I'm like just it was just coming out, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So I'm like, so I think it's happening.
Yeah.
And it was just everybody, people out there. If hopefully not, this doesn't hit you or family members or nothing. But if it does, please don't tell these cancer patients. It's okay. Your hair's going to grow back. It's okay if you lose it. It's going to grow back. That's not what we want to hear. I mean, obviously, I knew my hair was going to grow back, but that still didn't.
No, you didn't want to lose it in the first place. That's like after a miscarriage. Oh, well, you can try again.
You can.
What if I can't? What if I didn't want to? What if it was hard enough the first time?
Right. And I get that maybe that's just something they say because they think it's going to make you feel better.
I think people are uncomfortable with uncomfortable situations. They just really don't know what to say sometimes.
Right. No, yeah. And I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I know it maybe wasn't intentional, but let's normalize just being quiet and letting people.
Thank you.
Just
let me let you know when I need you to say something.
Exactly.
Just be there. Give me a hug.
Right. Just give me a hug. Just say it's gonna be okay, or just don't say anything.
Right.
So that was, and to me, for those that know me, my hair has always been my thing.
Yeah.
Like, I've always had long hair. I've enjoyed doing my hair. I always enjoyed doing my hair. I blow dry my own hair. I curl my own hair. Like, everything. It's just, my hair has always been my thing.
Yeah.
So on top of everything, that was a little hard because it's my hair.
Your hair is your crown.
It is, and it's part of your womanhood.
Correct.
That, on top of everything, you're losing. So, like I said, I started brushing, and it just started coming out. And so I was like, okay, so I don't want to keep going through this. So let me go and cut it. So I went and I cut it, and I just did like a quick lip balm. Yeah. But even with that, my hair was like this short. And even with that, it was still falling out. So I had it for maybe a week or so. And then after that, I was like, okay, let me cut it again. So now this time, it was kind of like this haircut. I just cut it really tight. Even with that, it was still falling.
Oh my God.
So I did it in phases just because I could not. I mean, I've seen pictures of people, that I started following, and they just go ahead and they're just
yeah.
I was a little bit more hesitant on doing that, even though I knew it was going to fall out, but I just couldn't come to, okay, just do it from, So I took my little steps, and then finally I went to my other best friend's house, and I was like, hey girl, I need you to do this for me. And she started doing it, and she couldn't do it, so her husband took over. She started crying, and we were all crying.
Yeah. Girl, you wouldn't. I wouldn't have been able to. Somebody else would have had to do it too. Thankfully, my husband is bald, so he probably would have been able to.
Right. So then, and it's funny because her husband loved them both. Her husband was he was hesitant at first, but he took over and he did his thing, and he, as my older brother's bald too, so he's on FaceTime. And he ended up telling me, he was like, bald is beautiful. You look beautiful. I'm like, I'm all mad. Mad and sad at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty much the process of my hair.
Yeah.
Now chemo, like I said, chemo got me sick from the beginning. It's no joke. You get sick for 5 to 6 days.
Jeez.
And I had chemo once every 3 weeks. So thankfully I did have a break. You know, I felt better, but it was just like such a hassle because just when you're feeling better, it feels like it's already time for the next one. And you're like, no, I don't want to have to go through this.
Did that cause any level of anxiety, like as you got through your treatments and you know that time is coming up, like did you start to get anxious about having to go?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I got anxious. I got nervous. Like I kept thinking, I'm like, God, please don't let this one be. Like I kept hoping that as it went on that it would get better.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was probably getting worse. My pressure was dropping. I mean, there was points where I was, you know, laying down and I would just be pale. And, you know, I would have to start eating like food with salt so I can my pressure can go back up. I had nurses coming to my house because I couldn't go to get my fluids and I was dehydrated. Yeah. Because as much as they say drink water to flush out the chemo, drinking water is the last thing you want to do.
Correct. Yeah.
With lemon, with flavor, with whatever it is. At least me. Let me not, just me in general, no. And I like water. I love water with lemon. Like
I know sometimes people end up feeling nauseous. So a lot of times when you're nauseous, water and nausea do not
mix. Right. And it's like, oh, ginger ale. Like it just, but honestly, it wasn't even water. Like even just anything else. Like I would try to switch it up. I just couldn't get anything down.
Yeah.
Like just, it was a lot of stuff going on at the same time. The fluids, when they came, they did make me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
But it was still, I was weak. I was just not, you know, I was nauseous. My stomach, I was throwing up. It was just, it was just bad.
And then I know you also had to have the port in your chest, which is what they use to actually get the chemo into your system, right?
Right, correct. So I kind of skipped over that part. So June 2nd was my chemo, but May 30th, that's when they put my port in. So it was all in the same week. So they put in the port, and then I started my chemo like 2 days after that. So it was easier for them to just go in there, stick the needle in the port, call it a day, get my chemo, than trying to find a vein and, you know, go through all that. Yeah. So, you know, having the port was easier for the chemo treatment.
Right. So you go through chemo and you're finally getting to the point of at least getting closer to cancer free. How long was that process of you going through the chemo process, you know, going through all of the treatments to where you finally see, you know, light at the end of the tunnel in terms of the cancer being, you know, either not in your system as much or the tumor being shrunken down enough to where it wasn't as, you know, hostile towards you?
Right. So, let me tell you that by my second chemo, like I would touch my tumor and it was like, it had shrunk.
Oh, wow.
So at the same time, I'm like, I hate you chemo, but at the same
I know you're working.
Yeah. But on the other hand, I'm like, wow. Yeah. Like it's working.
Yeah. Wow.
So that was exciting in the midst of everything because it was working.
Yeah.
You know, so that was good. So I did 6 rounds of chemo. So I started in June. I ended in September.
Gosh.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah. And trust me, there's people that have done 18 rounds of chemo.
Right.
I mean, at least I can, you know, it was 6, but you know, it was rough.
Yeah.
But So September comes along. That's my my last chemo. So real quick on my last chemo, I don't really have much family here. Like it's me, my mom, my sister, and I have a cousin with her family. That's it. The rest are friends. And so, you know, I would look at other people's last chemo and their whole family was there, like waiting for them or whatever. And I was like, oh, I'm like, I'm not going to have that, you know? Yeah. So I mentioned it to my mom. I'm like, you know, usually this is how it happens. Like people have, and so she didn't say anything. So the day of, after I finished my chemo, it was my mom, my sister, and another one of my best friends, Christina, that showed up to the clinic.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that was enough. You know, they had little signs, shirts, like everything was cute. And I'm like, oh. So when I finally go downstairs to the lobby, girl, the elevator opened and I had my pastors. I had the pastor's daughters. I had my cousin with her husband. I had my best friend's parents, Patty's parents. My very good friend Nelfie, his parents were there because they were actually here visiting. So they ended up going. So my mom just called everybody, and it was like the lobby was just full. They had flowers, they had balloons, they had banners.
And I remember seeing the pictures and video, which was so beautiful of that. I'm so
and
glad.
all that, I didn't know. I had no idea.
Beautiful.
So I'm like, okay, so I'm just, walking down or whatever, going down. And then the lobby opened and they were all there. They were singing and it was amazing. Like I couldn't have asked for, if it would have been planned, it probably wouldn't have came out as
right.
But my mom gets all the credit for that because she set everything up. Just so I can have, that, I can support. That support. Right.
Yeah.
Which everybody in my support squad, thank you so much. I love you guys. We all made shirts and Suhail's army was strong for that. They still are, but they came through.
Support is crucial during a cancer. I mean, any health battle, but especially a cancer battle.
Yes, listen, and it definitely shows you who's who.
Yeah.
There's people that I didn't even expect that came through like hardcore. Yeah. There's others that I probably expected and did not show up.
Yeah.
So
that's always,
I mean, your sister, not that I didn't expect for you guys, but, and I love you guys, but it's like, okay, you guys are Patty's friends kind of thing. I mean, you guys are my friends.
No, I know what you mean.
Like, in the sense of like, but you guys came through, like, everybody, like, I was getting gifts out, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, like, in the midst of everything, I was so loved. Like, I knew how loved I was by everybody, and that just meant
that's what it has to be about. And I mean, unfortunately, it sucks sometimes that you had to go through rough things to know how much you are loved.
Right.
But I'm so glad that you understood that and experienced that, because I mean, unfortunately, there are people who may go through these battles on their own, and some of them just because they don't tell people. Some people didn't want to battle it through, but the fact that you were courageous enough to even let people know this is what's happening to me, I mean, the least that people can do, if they are able to, is just let them know, like, we've got your back. Yeah, for sure.
Right. No, and it means more than like going through everything, but then knowing that you have such a strong support system there, and sometimes, people think, well, I don't know what to say. Well, I don't want to call because I don't know what to say. Or I don't want to go visit because don't do that. Like, you not knowing what to say, it's great because I get it. You don't know what to say. Even when there's a death that you have to reach out to. Correct. Like, but just telling me, I love you, you're in my prayers, it's enough.
Listen.
Would have been enough.
It's the small things. I realized that at that time, I didn't know we were pink sisters. I was like, "What's your favorite color?" Oh, pink. I got you. That's all I need to know. So exactly, little gestures that make a difference.
Exactly, and I think sometimes people make it more difficult than what it should be. Like, just give me a quick, breath of fresh air, of support, of something. I don't need a whole paragraph and a whole. No, it's just it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about you.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm there, and if you need me, reach out. Like, I get it because you also don't want to be bothering that person. They're sick. They're going.
Yeah.
But it's not that you shouldn't reach out to them at all.
Right, for sure.
So I just wanted to shout out my
No, I'm glad you did
my support.
That. I mean, they're here on the line. I see them. They're making all kinds of comments, which I appreciate it and I love it. So tell me, which I don't know if I even knew this, but before you could get your surgery, you had to have the cancer out of your system completely. So you had to wait until you went through the chemo before you could have your surgery, correct?
Right. Chemo had to be done before I got my surgery. So September I finished my chemo, and from there my surgery was scheduled.
Gotcha.
My surgery was scheduled October 20th, I believe. Yeah. But I had to wait. It had to be, I can't remember now, but it had to be a few weeks because the chemo had to somewhat be out of my system.
Right.
So it couldn't be scheduled like, a week after or anything.
Yeah.
So it was towards the end of October.
Right.
So
which I can imagine, because for surgery, they're going to add all this anesthesia. They're going to have to drug you up, so they can't have those poisonous
like both
drugs in your system at the same time.
Exactly. So, that was scheduled. And when they did the mastectomy, it's to remove, obviously, your breast, the tissue. And in that whole process, you also remove whatever's left of the cancer. Because, even though the chemo kills most of it or shrunk most of the tumor, they might still just be like a little tiny bit. Yeah. So, they got to go in there and scrape it or whatever they do. Mm-hmm. So that was done. And then I have to wait a week to get the results, which now, after all this, the surgery, everything, now I'm waiting a week to know if I'm getting radiation. Radiation is a whole other, because, it's actually, like, it burns your skin. Correct. It's something more depth that you have to process through. So as I'm sitting there waiting for the results, I'm praying and I'm like, God, please don't let me. Like, I do not want to go through radiation.
Yeah.
But if I also had to do whatever it took. Right. Anyways, I get the call like a week prior. I think my surgery was Thursday, and that following Friday, I get the call. So I'm like, I'm nervous. I'm like, I'm like, what is she gonna tell me? So she's like, hey, just want to like give you the results. Your results came back. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, so just wanted to let you know that there was like residual left from the cancer, pretty much, and everything has been removed. You're not gonna need radiation.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And I was like, what? I was like, oh my God, thank you. I'm like, thank you, God. Like, you don't even know. And she's over there laughing. And I said, because she told me that, but she's not really telling me the full thing. Right. So I'm like, does that mean I'm cancer free? And she was like, yeah, we can say that you're cancer free, but because I guess my oncologist had to tell me.
Got you.
She kind of knew, but she
couldn't be the first one to, or the
couldn't be the
one
first
to give you.
Right. Yeah. She's calling me from my breast surgeon's office. Correct. So she's like, your oncologist will tell you, but her saying pretty much already. So girl, I got off that phone and I just cried. Aww. I was just like, thank you, Jesus. So it literally, they were able to remove all of the cancer.
Such a blessing. So I know that the surgery, how long did the recovery take for that? And then you also had to have basically spacers, because one of the things you have coming up is a reconstructive surgery as well. Right.
So the mastectomy happens. I'm in recovery for a few. So when they removed my breast, they also put in what they call them expanders. So expanders are like these plastic things that they put in there because they get to be filled up. They fill them up every so often till they stretch out your skin, and then you get to have boobs.
Right.
So they put those in. I had to wait a little bit because they can't just go in there real quick and start, filling them up.
Yeah.
So it was like 4 weeks that I went just, without nothing or whatever. And then I had to start getting them filled. Oof. So I went weekly, and they started filling up till I got to a desired size.
Right.
Because when they tell you the desired size, you can't go too, you can't fill them up too big. Right. Because then when you put the implant in, that's going to make them grow more.
implants. Yeah.
So you have to have somewhat of a decent size because the implant is gonna be bigger.
Right.
So, I told him, I was like, I'm not looking to go crazy thing. Like, I just wanted to just look as natural as possible. That's another thing, guys. A mastectomy is not a boob job. So it's not something that like, oh yeah, well girl, you didn't have boobs before, so now you're gonna no. It's not a boob job.
Right.
Anyways.
Right. No, that's a good point, because again, that comes down to the sensitivity of people and the things that they may say, like, oh girl, well at least now you know you got, well, I didn't want to go through all this to get these. Like,
right.
It's not that deep.
It's not. Nope. I was fine with my little it's fine. I didn't need any extraness. It's fine. So then with that, Phil, it was about like a 8-week recovery process, 8-10 weeks kind of thing. So October, November, December, it was about three months.
Gotcha.
So after that, they just stop. When they get to the desired size, they stop, and you have the expanders there. I mean, you can even have them in. I only had them in for about 6 months, I think, but you can have them in for like a year.
Wow.
It just depends.
Yeah.
But thankfully, so my surgery is in June.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we're already in June. In June 15th.
It's coming up next week, right?
Not next. Well, next week, yes, because we're already in Jesus. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So once they do that, obviously they'll take out the expanders. And by the way, these expanders are so uncomfortable.
I can imagine.
It's just
because it's stretching your skin.
Right. And on top of that, they're just it's just stiff. Like, it's just like a stiff feeling.
They probably don't feel natural.
Right. No. And it's just annoying. Like, it's just not. So with the implants, it's going to be more natural. It's going to feel more natural. So, as much as I don't want to go through, all that, I'm looking forward to it, because I'm like, I'm done with these things in me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, so those are there, and then when the surgery comes, they'll remove those, obviously, and then pop in the implants.
And what is that surgery going to be like? Is that going to be a long recovery time? Did they tell you, how long it will take?
It's about kind of the same thing, 6 to 8, but it can be less, just because it is less than the mastectomy.
Right.
But I guess they just still want to give you, just give you that in case. Everybody's different, obviously. With that, depending on how it goes, hopefully not, but there's been cases where they got to go back in because the implant didn't fit it's just a lot of different things that happen. So with everything going well, then that should be.
We'll pray that anything happening with that. So for you, would that kind of be the end, so to speak, of this, like, at least the medical side, the surgery side, like that part of your journey? Or
So for the surgery, yes, it would be the last surgery. The process will still continue probably till September, because so when you finish chemo, you also have to get a treatment called immunotherapy. Immunotherapy is more preventative.
Got you.
So it's still, you get it. I took my port out because it was like kind of like open, the incision. So I had to remove it anyways, but it still goes through your vein. So you still I go once every 3 weeks, just like I went for my chemo. But it's more preventative. It doesn't get me sick.
And I'm assuming it's just to build up your immune system after having all of those chemicals and having it torn down so badly.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Something like that into that. And then also, prevents from, it just has to seal kind of everything.
Yeah.
That way. So right now, I'm still going through that.
Gotcha.
So like I said, probably like September should be my last one. So I'm assuming by the end of this year, I should be done with everything. Just to put it there. And then it'll just be, I still have to get monitor, obviously.
Right.
Make sure, because even even with the implants, yeah, I don't need a mammogram, or I don't need to get mammograms anymore, but the lymph nodes are always there, and those can,
correct. Yeah.
Also can, so it's still something that I have to watch over.
Yeah. Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, Suhail, I am excited for you because I know that it's almost like, which I felt the same way last year when everything was happening for me. It's almost like your life is wrecked in like one quick moment. Like,
yes,
everything just happens and everything is turned upside down, and you just have to go. You have no control. Yeah. You have no certainty. You're relying on God. You're praying that things work out, but you don't really know. And I'm grateful that you have made it through that part of it, and you're kind of at the tail end, and that you are so willing to share what your story has been like, and what's the next steps for you. And I have no doubt that your surgery next week is going to be successful, that even though we did not want that to be the case, that they will sit pretty and they will look and be what you need them to be, and that the rest of your immune therapy goes well, and that you'll be in remission for years and years to come. This will not be something that plagues you.
Amen.
So hopefully you'll just be able to share your story moving forward from this perspective.
Continue. Right. And just real quick, like, I can be cancer free, my surgery can be done, everything's good, but just know, like I'm a different person, obviously.
Of course.
From before, from my pre-cancer, it's, and I feel like people see it as, oh, well, you're cancer free, so that's it, let's go. Okay, back to normal. And it's never normal. It's your new norm.
Correct.
But it's never normal completely. So, I actually sent Patty something the other day on Instagram, because it said it was like a meme, and it was like somebody telling a cancer patient, "Oh my God, you look so good," and then like the cancer patient's responding, "I have cancer. I wasn't ugly." Like that's that's like the whole thing. Like, I get it, and thank you. Like, I appreciate it. I know, but at the same time, it's still a process that you can look good. I can look fine. But it's something that I deal with every day.
Correct.
That I wonder why every day.
Yep.
And that as much as I don't like it, I'm just pushing through, because I am cancer free, and I am grateful. Yeah. I am blessed. Yeah. So I don't like, going off of that too much, because I know there's a lot of women that don't get to survive this. Right. But it's still definitely a process. Just because it's not out there and stuff, people just might think like, oh yeah, it's an easy breezy, like you're cancer free, that's it. No. But
there's certain things that you go through that, like, same with me. After my miscarriage, I remember telling my husband and my family, I'm like, I'm never going to be the same person. Like, it's just something that alters you internally. And it's not always bad. I feel like there's parts of me that are so much more bolder and that are so much more empathetic. I have so much more compassion towards people and the things that they go through. So it's not always a bad thing. But there's also that part of me where I may have been more, serendipitous about certain things. I'm like, nothing is guaranteed. Like, the ball can drop at any time, and it's having that in the back of your mind where that wasn't necessarily always, my thought.
Right.
So I get it. Like, the emotional, the mental part of it is just as crucial as the physical aspect of it.
As the physical, exactly. Yes. And sometimes it's just looking at the physical, because people don't, like you said, sometimes you don't, and even me, I have to say that I probably at one point was like, I don't want to say I was insensitive, but maybe I didn't see, or I wanted to talk and give my opinion without knowing.
Correct.
Now it's different, because a lot of times you do want to give your opinion just because you think and you really don't. So
I think that's just a human experience, because until something touches you personally, sometimes there's no way for you to know.
Wait, right.
Friends of mine had miscarriages prior to me, and I always felt bad, but but I couldn't really understand until it happened to me. And it's like, oh,
This
and now even between me and those friends, there's a weird knowing, because it's like, I don't even have to explain certain things, which I'm sure for you, when you run into other cancer survivors or people who are going through this, there's certain things where you can just say like chemo and they automatically know like exactly, you don't have to say too much, you don't have to show too much. They know what you mean because they've been through that.
Right.
So that's that's the beauty of community, even in the rough things that we go through.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. And everybody out there, whoever's watching, from my as I call them, my friends, thank you, because I have reached out to so many, like, oh, this and that, like, how was your treatment? And if I have any questions, they're always down, especially Victoria. Shout out to Victoria. She's been a great, and she's actually younger than me, but she also went through breast cancer at 26. Wow. I think she was. Yeah. And I've just kind of piggybacked off of her, because I'm like, oh, okay, so that's how it goes. And so everybody has been super supportive
of that. Well, before we go, I want you to share something that you shared with me today. So you got a chance to kind of have like a pre-celebration prior to your surgery coming up.
Yes.
You ended up heading to New York to go visit Patria and to be with a couple of friends. And there was something cool that happened for you there. So let me tell the people so we can end on the celebratory note.
Yay! So I went to visit my best friend in New York for Memorial Day weekend. Just a little trip to distract myself from what's about to happen, meaning my surgery. And we had a great time. Great time. She is the hostess with the mostest for real.
She's gonna make you feel amazing wherever you are.
Yeah. No, yes. And so my last day there was Tuesday, and we went. She got us tickets to go watch The View, the show where Whoopi Goldberg is, for those of you that don't know. So we were there, and behind the scenes, when they go off to commercial break, she calls over the lady that was kind of entertaining us while the commercial break, and she's like, she was asking if there's any celebrations. Which, by the way, my friends out there, my family probably already knows, but my IG friends, I'm going to celebrate everything this year. Like, everything is a celebration.
Correct.
So when she said that out, Patty was quick to be like, oh, there's a celebration over here. So she called her over, and I told her that I was a breast cancer survivor, and the whole studio was clapping. They made me stand up, and everybody was just super supportive. So so it meant a lot just to have even strangers, just the fact that I'm a breast cancer survivor, like, show their love. So it was an awesome experience.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you got that, celebration, even in that, big of an arena. It just feels good to know that, you have some things to kind of just keep your mind and keep you celebrating going into the next steps next week. Yeah. And I will definitely, which if I say this, I'll be keeping you in my prayers, and I will definitely be checking in on you. And I encourage those who are on this line, if you are praying people, definitely keep Suhail in your prayers as well for next week and beyond, for her recovery and even, moving forward and beyond.
Yes.
Before we close this out, is there anything else that you just want to say or share that you haven't had a chance to say? Even though you have been thorough. This has been good. I've learned a lot from you.
Good. Well, I'm glad. And listen, this is obviously new to me. So every day I learn something new. Even though I went through the process and everything, every day, like I said, I learned something new about it, about somebody else, or from somebody else, like everything. This has been a journey, to say the least. It's been a struggle. It's been hard. And not in a million years that I think, I always say this, I don't consider myself a strong, brave person. Never have. But after this, I've kind of, I think kind of it just happened naturally, honestly. Like, it wasn't like, I would do something, I don't know, to make me strong or make me brave. It just, every day was different, and I was just doing step by step, day by day, and that got me through. And obviously God, my faith in God, and leaning on him, like you said earlier, also helped. But just know that, do your manual exams. Do them yourself in the shower. I know sometimes, we're all involved, and maybe we're shaving our legs and shaving this and shaving that, and we don't get time to do anything else. But I think that when I got it done, the GYN, I don't want to say she missed it, but I mean, it was a matter of a few months. And that was like end of August, beginning of September, and then December, I felt it. So it was probably already there. It was just growing.
Right.
And, the months kept going by. But yeah, I can't tell you enough. Just get checked. Don't procrastinate, especially when it's things like this that, your mammos, your pap smear, like that. Those are very, because the physical, I mean, it is important, but, there's just a, like, reproductive system is things that you just, there's a lot of times where it is missed.
Yep.
So, you also have to stay on top of it. Absolutely. But again, thank you to everybody. Thank you to my friends. Thank you to my family, which is friends and family. Thank you to you, Shani, your family, your mom. Oh my gosh, I love her. Mama love you. She was the sweet. Oh my gosh, when I went to her, it was just amazing. So it really meant a lot. I mean, I know she's heard about me all these years, but just feeling the love in person was great. Yeah. So your sister, your brother, I mean, he hits me up. Your whole family, they've been great. So
glad.
It really means a lot.
We love you. You are an extension of our family via Patria, because she is like a sister to you.
Exactly.
So we're just glad that you are okay and that God is carrying you through this. And I just can't wait to see, how things go for you from now to the end of the year, when you get to the point where you hopefully are just a lot more settled. And this is not like everyday part of your life in terms of treatments and, pending surgery and those sorts of things. So I have no doubt that it's going to be amazing for you. I am excited for you. I am so proud of you for being willing to share your story, because again, I know this was not your thing.
Yes.
But you articulated everything so well and just shared so much. And again, like I said, I learned so much from you. And even knowing people that have gone through this before, I haven't had a chance to get this in depth in what their process was like. So I'm thankful that you were willing to share that.
Pleasure.
But we are going to close this up. Thank you to everyone who came on. I know there were so many comments that went through, and sometimes I try to stop and read them, but I was like, I am not stopping you in the middle of the story.
I know. I'm trying to read too.
But there was a lot of support and so many people that were just cheering you on. So many people who said that they were praying for you. So thank you to everyone who's been doing that. I am going to go ahead and share this on my IG. I'm going to tag Suhail, so she'll be able to share it on her feed too immediately after this. And then in a week, so by Friday, I'll have it on YouTube. So she'll have the opportunity to share it with even more people and, send it off and be able to, share her story with whoever she'd like. But the next one that I'll have is going to be the end of this month, June 26th, and it's going to be my lupus and infant loss story. So that will be that one that I have coming up. And if there are anyone that's on this that, wants to DM me, and if you have a reproductive story that you'd like to share and be able to, allow people to learn a little bit more about your challenges, your experience, what it's been like, please DM me. I'm at ShaniSpeaksNow. And Suhail, I know that your account is more private. However, if you would like anyone to follow you, in case there's someone who may be going through this, or they know someone that's going through it and they want to maybe reach out and, get some support or ask more questions, let them know what your handle is too, just in case they want to be your friend.
It's Suhail14. So just hit me up. I know, like Shani said, it is private, but I always got the DMs. I'm open to get the DMs. If you guys have any questions, like she said, if, God forbid, it doesn't hit you personally or in your family, but just in case, I am here to, answer, support, whatever you guys need.
Absolutely. Well, that is it, guys. Thank y'all so much for being on here for so long on this Sunday. It really means a lot for you to take your time out to care. Patria, thank you for putting her Instagram handle in the notes as well.
Oh, yeah.
I know that it's Sunday, so hopefully you all are having some good Sunday dinner wherever you are. Or I believe is there a game tonight? I think there's a game tonight.
There is.
Even though I know your Celtics are out, my people been out. The Warriors been out, so it is what it is.
I know. Therefore, go Denver. Let's do it.
You know what? As much as I would want to go for Miami, I am on the go Denver tip because they've just had to wait for so long. I'm all about the underdog. So go Denver. I hope that they are able to pull it through. That first game, they weren't messing around.
No, it was. It was. So let's see. Let's see how this one
We
goes.
shall see. But love you, girly. We will
Love
be in
you
touch.
too, Shanine. Thank you so
And,
much.
I thank you, everyone. Have a great night, and definitely catch this on IG Live, and definitely be sure that you go to my YouTube at Shani Speaks Now, and you'll be able to catch it there as well. Bye, you
Thank you,
guys.
everybody. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye. Suhail, thank you so much for sharing your story. You truly are the epitome of a survivor. We wish you all the best in your upcoming surgery and as you continue to heal and recover. And if you'd like to share your story live, remember you can email me directly at hi.shani@ShaniSpeaksNow.com or DM me directly on Instagram. Didn't get a chance to watch? Well, you can listen wherever you listen to podcasts on Shani Speaks Now, the podcast. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And remember, always keep the faith and let the Lord fight your battles.